Hi, my name is Robert, and this is Broken America. I have spent the last 2 years of my life investigating the slow death of quality in this country, exposing the brands that sold out, the engineers who were overruled by accountants, and the corporations that deliberately built your appliances, tools, and vehicles to fail on a schedule. But today, I am not here to expose another villain. Today, I am here to give you the list you have been asking for since this channel started. The only 7 brands left in America that are still actually worth your money. Why this list exists. I want to be honest with you about how this video came to exist, because I think the backstory matters. About 3 years ago, I was standing in a Lowe's parking lot. I had just spent $600 on a washing machine repair that the technician told me was not going to last another 18 months anyway. He looked me dead in the eye and said, "You might as well start saving for a new one now." I was 34 years old. I had just replaced this machine 2 years prior, and I was standing there doing the math in my head, realizing that I had now spent more on washing machines in 4 years than my parents spent on theirs in 20. I went home that night and I printed out over 200 pages of consumer reports, repair data, and engineering breakdowns. My wife walked into the home office at around midnight and asked me why our dining room table looked like a crime scene investigation board. I told her I was trying to figure out if it was possible to buy anything in this country that was not designed to fall apart. She suggested I go to bed. I did not. That night started a research obsession that eventually became this channel. And the single most common question I get from you, the people who watch these investigations, is some version of the same desperate plea. "Robert, I believe you that everything is garbage, but what do I actually buy?" That question kept me up for 6 months before I felt ready to answer it. Because I did not want to give you a list that was sponsored. I did not want to give you a list based on marketing. I wanted to give you a list that was built on the same forensic methodology we use to expose the bad actors. Parts availability, repairability, manufacturing location, warranty integrity, and most importantly, the testimony of the people who actually use these products in the field. Mechanics, contractors, plumbers, the people whose livelihood depends on their equipment not failing. Here is what I found. 7 brands, not 100, not 50. 7 brands that have looked at the modern disposable economy and said no. They are not flashy, they are not cheap, and in some cases they are not even interesting to look at. But they share one DNA marker that every other brand on the market has abandoned. They are built to be owned for a lifetime, not cycled through on a subscription model that benefits the manufacturer more than it benefits you. This is the Buy It for Life list, and I think it is going to change the way you spend money forever. Brand 1. Speed Queen. Let me start with the one I am personally most passionate about, because this brand almost single-handedly launched this channel. Walk into any big box store in America today, and you will see rows of washing machines that look like they belong on a spaceship. Curved, tempered glass doors, touchscreens, Wi-Fi connectivity, sensors that weigh your laundry and automatically determine your cycle settings. They look absolutely incredible on the showroom floor. And statistically, they will be dead in less than 7 years. I have spoken to dozens of appliance repair technicians while making these investigations, and the story I hear over and over again is identical. They crack open a Samsung front loader or an LG top loader and find a sealed, plastic outer tub with the bearings permanently bonded inside using a plastic welding process. When that bearing fails, and it always fails, you cannot replace just the bearing. You have to replace the entire tub assembly. $400 for the part, $300 in labor, on an $800 machine. The math does not work. The repairman shrugs. You buy a new machine? The corporation wins again. I personally think this is the most underrated part of the story, and I need you to really sit with it for a second. A bearing is a wear item. Every engineer who designs a washing machine knows that bearings wear out. They made a deliberate choice to make that bearing impossible to replace. That is not an engineering limitation. That is predatory economics wearing an engineering mask. Speed Queen does the opposite, and everything about how they do it matters. Speed Queen is based in Ripon, Wisconsin, and they have been building washing machines since 1908. But here is the critical difference. They do not build consumer appliances. They build commercial laundromat machines. The unit they sell for your home is effectively the same machine they sell to a laundromat operator who needs it running 7 days a week for 25 years straight. They just removed the coin slot. The TC5 top loader has a steel transmission with steel gears, not plastic. Steel. It has a mechanical timer instead of a circuit board that will fry the moment condensation finds the wrong solder joint. It fills the tub all the way to the top with hot water instead of trickling in a cup and calling it a wash cycle to satisfy some energy regulation written by a committee that has never actually done a load of laundry in their lives. Critics say it is loud and old-fashioned. They are absolutely right on both counts. This machine washes your clothes with something I can only describe as controlled violence. My grandfather, a mechanic for 35 years, used to say that the sound of a machine working hard was the sound of a machine doing its job. He had zero patience for anything that prioritized looking smooth over working hard. He would have loved a Speed Queen. The TC5 warranty is 7 years, parts and labor. The entire machine, because they are not afraid of what they built. Stop buying spaceships. Buy the machine the laundromat uses. Brand 2, Honda small engines. I want to tell you something about the small engine market that I did not fully understand until I spent 3 hours going down a rabbit hole that started with a forum post from a landscaping contractor in Georgia. What I found genuinely shocked me. The small engine market, meaning the engines that power your generator, your pressure washer, your lawnmower, and your water pump, is almost entirely dominated by what the industry calls clone engines. These are Chinese manufactured motors, many of which are reverse-engineered copies of older Honda and Briggs designs, sold under dozens of different brand names and assembled with tolerances that are measured in millimeters rather than microns. They run when they are new. They look fine on the shelf at the hardware store. They start 3 times out of 4 in the first season. And then, after 2 winters sitting in a garage, the ethanol in the fuel has gummed up the carburetor jets, and you are kneeling on the driveway pulling that starter cord until your shoulder gives out and the machine never fires again. I have been there. Most homeowners have been there. There is one exception: Honda. And I am not talking about their cars, although I will say as an aside that their cars are excellent. I am talking specifically about the GX series small engines. I'll be honest, when I first looked at the price difference between a Honda-powered generator and a clone-powered generator of similar wattage, I thought it was highway robbery. I actually had to sit with that price gap for a minute before I could wrap my head around it. You can buy a clone generator for $350. A Honda-powered equivalent might cost you $700. That is a real gap for a working family. But here's the math nobody does. The clone engine lasts 3 to 5 years with consistent use. The Honda GX series is routinely documented running for 15 to 20 years of regular use with basic maintenance. If you are buying a generator for emergency backup power, you are betting your family's safety on that machine, starting when the grid goes down, when it is cold, when it has been sitting in the garage for 14 months since the last time you needed it. A clone engine might start. A Honda GX series wants to start. There is an engineering philosophy difference between those two statements that you feel the moment you pull the cord. But the reason Honda makes this list, and this is the part I find myself randomly thinking about at 2 in the morning because it just refuses to leave you, is parts availability. If you buy a pressure washer with a generic clone engine and the carburetor needle valve fails, you are likely throwing that machine in a dumpster because you cannot find the part. The machine becomes uneconomical to repair because the manufacturer has no interest in supporting it. If you have a Honda GX 160 from 1985, you can walk into an authorized Honda power equipment dealer today and order the carburetor rebuild kit by part number. They support their engines for decades. That is not a coincidence. That is a company philosophy that says, the machine you bought from us is still our responsibility. That philosophy is now so rare in American consumer manufacturing that when you encounter it, it feels almost radical. Buy the Honda. It is the only small engine that respects your investment. Brand 3, Lodge Cast Iron. Okay, I need to talk about something in the kitchen, and I need to start with a confession. I owned a Teflon non-stick pan for 4 years. I was very careful with it. No metal utensils, no high heat. I hand washed it, dried it, treated it gently. By year 3, I could see scratches in the coating that I could not explain. By year 4, the eggs I was cooking were coming out with little dark flecks in them that were not pepper. I was eating the coating. And then I spent a weekend going down a research hole into what PTFE actually is and what the health implications are of ingesting it. My wife had to physically take my laptop away from me at midnight on a Saturday. That is not a bit. That actually happened. The solution to the non-stick lie is older than your great-grandmother's kitchen, and it costs $30. Lodge is a cast iron cookware company based in South Pittsburgh, Tennessee. They have been casting iron in the same foundry since 1896, 130 years. The skillet they sell today for $30 is not meaningfully different from the skillet they were casting in 1920, and that is not a weakness. That is the entire point. A Lodge skillet is essentially a chunk of iron shaped into a cooking vessel. There are no coatings. There are no chemicals. There are no circuit boards or sensors or ceramic layers bonded with adhesives that break down at high temperatures. It is iron. You heat iron. You cook on it. You clean it. You rub it with oil and you put it away. The science of cast iron seasoning is genuinely fascinating to me, and I think most people gloss over this part when they talk about cast iron. But I think it is secretly the whole point of everything. When you cook with fat on cast iron and then cure it at high heat, the oil polymerizes. It does not just coat the surface, it chemically bonds to the iron at a molecular level, filling in the microscopic pores of the metal and creating a surface that is genuinely non-stick without any synthetic coating. And here is the part that gets me every single time I explain it. The more you use a cast iron pan, the better that surface gets. It is the only cooking vessel on Earth that improves with age and use. Every other pan degrades. This one appreciates. I have a Lodge skillet that belonged to my grandfather. He bought it in 1962. I used it to make eggs this morning. No flecks, no scratches. Just eggs. If you want a cooking vessel that your grandchildren will use, buy the Lodge. $30. South Pittsburgh, Tennessee. Made in America. And it will outlive everyone in this room. Brand 4, Red Wing Heritage and Thorogood. This is a topic I have been obsessed with since I was a kid. and I am not entirely sure I can explain why. Maybe it is because my father was a construction worker, and I spent my childhood watching him take care of his boots, the way some people take care of their cars. He had a pair of Red Wings he bought in 1984 and wore for 11 years before he retired. He polished them. He conditioned the leather. He had them resoled twice. When he finally stopped working, those boots had more integrity than most things I have ever purchased as an adult. Here is what you need to understand before you ever buy a pair of work boots again. The vast majority of boots sold in America today use what the industry calls cement construction. They take the leather upper, take the rubber sole, and glue them together with a chemical adhesive. It is fast. It is cheap. It is the manufacturing equivalent of using double-sided tape to hold together a structural beam. Adhesive dries out. It fails under heat, under moisture, under repeated flexion. The sole does not gradually wear down to the point of needing replacement. It peels. It separates without warning, usually at the worst possible moment, usually in the rain. And once that seal breaks, the boot is finished. You cannot reglue it with any reliability. You buy a new pair and start over. The alternative is a construction method called the Goodyear welt, and this is one of those things that once you understand it, completely changes how you see every boot you have ever owned. In Goodyear welt construction, the leather upper is stitched to a strip of leather called the welt, which is then stitched to the outsole. No adhesive, just stitching. Triple redundant leather and thread, the same fundamental technology that held boots together before the Civil War. When the sole eventually wears through, a cobbler cuts those stitches, peels off the old outsole, and stitches on a new one. The upper, the part that has spent years slowly conforming to the exact shape of your foot, is preserved completely. Red Wing Heritage and Thorogood, specifically the American Heritage line, still build this way. Red Wing has been making boots in Red Wing, Minnesota since 1905. Thorogood has been making boots in Milwaukee since 1892. Neither has been gutted by private equity. Neither chases the bottom of the market. The math is simple. A Thorogood welt boot with 2 resoles over 10 years costs you under $450. Cement boots over the same period cost you double that. And every single year, you are breaking in a new pair from scratch. Buy the boot that can be rebuilt. Brand 5. Channel OK. I want to talk about hand tools, and I want to be honest with you about how angry this topic makes me personally. I grew up using Craftsman tools. My father had a red Craftsman toolbox in the garage that I was not allowed to touch until I was 14, at which point it became the most sacred object in my world. Those tools felt substantial. They felt like they were made by someone who understood that a wrench is not a decoration. It is a machine. It has to work. It has to bite. If you watched our previous investigation, you already know what happened to Craftsman. Private equity, Stanley Black, and Decker. Overseas manufacturing. Chrome plating over soft steel that rounds off bolts and makes you feel like the problem is your grip rather than the tool. So where do you go? For pliers, the answer is channel lock. And this is one of those things I find myself randomly evangelizing about to people who did not ask. I once spent 45 minutes explaining channel lock to a guy at a hardware store who just wanted to buy some zip ties. He seemed genuinely confused but also slightly interested. I consider that a win. Channel lock has been manufacturing pliers in Meadville, Pennsylvania since 1886. That sentence should stop you for a second. 1886. The same town, the same company, the same basic product. for nearly 140 years. They have never moved their manufacturing to China. They have never switched from high-carbon steel to cheaper alloys to protect their margin. The teeth on a channel lock plier are laser heat treated after forming, which means the grip surface is hardened independently from the body of the tool. When you grab a pipe with a channel lock, it bites. It does not slip. It does not deform. It holds with the confidence of a tool that was built by someone who understood that the person using it might be lying on their back under a sink with their arms above their head, and they need that grip to hold on the first try. I actually visited the Meadville facility last year. I went on my own time because I was genuinely curious whether the reputation matched the reality. I want to tell you something. Watching someone operate a heat treatment station and then perform a quality control test on a set of pliers before they leave that factory floor reminded me of what manufacturing used to mean in this country. These are people who are proud of what they make. You can see it. The price difference between a channel lock and a big box store brand is maybe $6 on a pair of pliers. $6 to own a tool that will outlive you. I have channel locks in my toolbox from the 1990s that are indistinguishable from a brand new pair. The tool does not wear out if the steel is right. Stop buying chrome-plated lies. Buy the channel lock. It is made in Pennsylvania, and it will never let you down on a job. Brand 6, Vitamix. All right, I know what some of you are thinking right now. Robert, you have been talking about washing machines and cast iron pans and work boots, and now you are about to try to sell me a blender. Yes, I am, and I need you to trust me for about 4 minutes. I went down such a deep rabbit hole on the blender industry that my wife threatened to cancel our Wi-Fi. What I found about Vitamix specifically is one of those things I had to verify myself because I was convinced it could not possibly be true. Vitamix is a company based in Olmsted Township, Ohio. They have been manufacturing blenders since 1921. Not 1971. 1921. Over a century of making the same category of product in the same region of the country while refusing to cheapen the engineering. The Vitamix Ascent series costs between $500 and $550. By any consumer appliance standard, that is an extraordinary amount of money for a blender. The Ninja at the big box store costs $60, and it looks extremely capable on the shelf. Let me tell you what happens to the Ninja. The Ninja's motor runs at full voltage across relatively cheap carbon brushes inside a housing that is not engineered for heat dissipation. Under heavy use, those brushes wear down. The motor overheats. The blades, which are made from stamped metal rather than forged steel, flex under load and eventually develop micro-fractures. Average lifespan under regular daily use, 2 to 3 years. At $60 a cycle, you are spending between $20 and $30 per year on the machine itself, before you even account for the cost of your time replacing it and relearning a new machine. The Vitamix uses a commercial-grade motor that is also used in food service applications, meaning restaurants that run a blender every 15 minutes for 8 hours a day. The blades are laser cut from aircraft-grade stainless steel. The housing is designed to manage heat. The machine will run continuously for several minutes without triggering a thermal cutoff. But here's the part that makes me love this company in a way I almost cannot explain. Vitamix has a repair program, not a warranty replacement program. A repair program. If your Vitamix motor fails, you ship them the machine. They rebuild it. They send it back. They have been rebuilding machines from the 1970s without complaint. I have spoken to people who have had their original 1978 Vitamix motor rebuilt by the company and are still using that machine today. This is the kind of thing that, once you see it, completely changes how you understood what a consumer product relationship is supposed to look like. Most appliance companies do not want to repair your machine. Repair competes with replacement. Vitamix has built a repair infrastructure, maintained it for decades, and used it as a point of pride. That is not a warranty strategy. That is a manufacturing philosophy. $550, divided over 25 years of daily use. That is $22 a year. The Ninja costs more. Brand 7, Darn Tough Vermont. I saved this one for last because it is the most underrated brand on the entire list, and I personally think it is secretly the most important story here. I have shown this to friends who had zero interest in consumer product research, and every single one of them stopped scrolling and asked me to explain it again. The brand is Darn Tough. They make socks. And before you close this video, let me tell you why a sock company deserves to be on the same list as Speed Queen, Honda, and Channel Lock. Darn Tough is a small company based in Northfield, Vermont. They manufacture their socks in a mill in Vermont using merino wool, and they have offered an unconditional lifetime guarantee on every single pair since they launched the product. Unconditional lifetime guarantee. No asterisks, no exclusions, no requirements to prove the socks were washed correctly or worn appropriately. If your Darn Tough socks wear out, develop a hole, or fail in any way for any reason at any point in your life, you send them back. They send you a new pair, no questions asked. Now, I want you to sit with what that guarantee actually means for a company's manufacturing strategy, because this is the part where every single time I tell this story, I get goosebumps, and I have told it probably 100 times. If you offer an unconditional lifetime guarantee, you have a very powerful financial incentive to build the best possible sock. Every pair that fails and comes back is a pair you have to replace at cost. Every failure hits your margin directly. You cannot hide behind fine print. You cannot blame the customer's washing machine or say they voided the warranty by wearing them too hard. Every failure costs you money. Darn Tough has built their entire business model around making a sock that simply does not come back. The merino wool they use is 22.5 micron diameter fiber. That is at the upper threshold of what is considered ultrafine merino. The knitting density is tighter than almost any sock on the market. The construction is seamless in the toe to eliminate the pressure point that causes blister-inducing friction. These are not marketing claims. These are engineering specifications that have been independently verified by the military, which has been purchasing Darn Tough socks for field use since the early 2000s. I actually reached out to a veteran who had done 2 tours wearing Darn Tough socks through some genuinely brutal conditions before making this section, and what he told me completely changed the direction of how I wanted to present this brand. He said, "The socks are the last thing I think about when I am in the field. When your socks are working, they disappear. When they are not working, they are the only thing in the world. Darn Tough disappears." That is the highest compliment a piece of equipment can receive. I will be honest. When I first came across the Darn Tough story, I was convinced the lifetime guarantee was a marketing gimmick. I actually went and found consumer forums where people had tested it. People who had been sending back socks for 10 years. People who had sent back the same pair 3 times. In every case, the company honored the guarantee. No questions, no friction, new pair shipped within a week. This is the kind of corporate behavior I do not know how to express without sounding like I am exaggerating. In a world where every consumer company is engineering its products to fail and its warranty to be impossible to claim, here is a company in Vermont knitting socks with the explicit goal of making a product so good that their guarantee never gets triggered. A 3-pack of Darn Tough socks cost between $50 and $60. The typical gas station sock or big box store athletic sock costs about $8 to $10 a pair and lasts between 6 months and a year of hard use before thinning out, or developing holes. Do the math over a decade. Darn Tough socks cost less, and they are backed by a company that is genuinely, structurally, and financially incentivized to make the best possible product. The Darn Tough story is the buy it for life philosophy in its purest form. I think it is the one that cuts through to people who do not care about cast iron pans or small engine carburetor tolerances. Everybody wears socks. One company in Vermont decided to put a forever guarantee on theirs, while every other manufacturer is quietly reducing thread count to protect their quarterly margin. That contrast tells you everything you need to know about the character difference between the companies on this list and the companies in every other investigation we have done on this channel. Verdict: OPT out of the cycle. I want to close with something I have been thinking about since I started this channel, something that I think gets lost when we talk about the buy it for life philosophy purely as a financial strategy. This is not just about money. I mean, yes, the math is real, and I have shown you the math repeatedly throughout this video. The Speed Queen costs more up front and costs less over a lifetime. The Darn Tough socks cost more up front and cost less over a decade. The Red Wing boots, with 2 Rasolis, cost half what the cement boots cost over 10 years. The financial argument is airtight. But the reason I personally find this topic so important, the reason I have spent 3 years of my life building this channel and researching these stories and printing out stacks of documents and staying up until midnight connecting dots, is that this is not really a conversation about products. It is a conversation about who is in control of your life. The corporations that build the disposable appliances, the sealed bearing washing machines, the self-cleaning oven that kills its own motherboard, the laminated RV wall that rots from the inside out. They are not just taking your money. They are creating dependency. They are engineering a world in which you are always one product failure away from needing them again. You are not a customer in that model. You are a revenue stream with a home address. When you buy a Speed Queen, you are saying, I do not want to be dependent on Samsung's supply chain for the next 20 years. When you buy a Lodge skillet, you are saying, I do not need a new pan with a better coating every 3 years. When you buy a pair of Red Wing boots and take them to a cobbler for a resole, you are participating in an economy of repair that the disposable product model has been systematically trying to destroy for 50 years. These 7 brands, Speed Queen, Honda GX, Lodge, Red Wing and Thorogood, Channel Lock, Vitamix, and Darn Tough Vermont, are not perfect companies. They are not immune to pressure. Some of them have stumbled at various points. But right now, in 2026, in the market as it exists today, they represent the best evidence I have found that building a product with genuine integrity is still possible. It is just rare. The most expensive product you will ever buy is the one you have to buy twice. Stop buying the marketing. Stop buying the chrome plating. Stop buying the touchscreens and the Wi-Fi connectivity and the self-cleaning cycles that fry the motherboard. Buy the iron. Buy the leather. Buy the steel. Buy the wool. And build a life that the corporations cannot rent back to you. I am Robert. This is Broken America, and I will see you in the next investigation.